Over the past 32 plus years, Sonic the Hedgehog has appeared in many different pieces of media, such as games, TV shows, movies, and comics. And with these different media appearances, obviously lies different iterations of the character. And the question that has popped up recently is, should Sonic the Hedgehog be a static character? With a series that has gone on for so long, you would think there would be a definite answer for this question already, but apparently not. So in today's video, we shall be discussing and answering the question of, should Sonic be a static character? So, without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, let's discuss the topic at hand. Actually, hang on, just before we carry on with the video, something tells me that you're not subscribed. How do I know that, you ask? Well, look at this! Are you seeing that right now? Most of the people watching this video right now aren't subscribed. What's going on with that then, eh? Press that subscribe button right the hell now because, just saying, Sega was telling me that if you don't subscribe right now, they ain't releasing that Unleashed port. Okay, they didn't actually say that, but come on man, you should still subscribe right now. You won't regret it. Trust me. Anyways, I'll stop bothering you now, so on with the video. In order to even begin answering this question, I think it would be important to look back on Sonic's past iterations to see what makes Sonic's defining character traits. Now, to make things a bit easier for discussion here, we're going to be looking at the games that define who Sonic is and what his character traits are, since Sonic the Hedgehog is a game franchise and character after all. So to start off in the classic Sonic era, with Sonic 1, 2, CD, and 3 Knuckles. Now, due to the limitations of the Genesis, Sonic 1, 2 and 3 and Knuckles don't show massive parts of Sonic's character, but in Sonic CD, we at least have the animated cutscenes. But despite those limitations, key parts of Sonic's character were still made apparent here. By simply placing down the controller and not pressing a single button, you already get so much of Sonic's character right there from his animations. Every single one of these games has a very confident idle pose for Sonic, and then leaves Sonic alone for long enough and he'll start to do some of his idle poses, showcasing his impatient attitude and always wanting to go. Sonic is a character who doesn't want to waste no time, he just wants to go and bring justice to those who need it. This is especially apparent in Sonic CD, where we also see some of Sonic's attitude and cool factor. In Sonic CD, Amy Rose is introduced, and even though Amy does admire Sonic and Sonic actually saves Amy, he ain't got no time to stick around, he just wants to go. As we see from Sonic's idle animations too, Sonic travels as free as the wind, which is something that is showcased later on in the series. And then in Sonic 3 and Knuckles, we get to see even more of Sonic's character traits. At the start of Sonic 3, Knuckles was wronged by Sonic by taking out the emeralds out of him and stealing them from him, and he continues to do so throughout the entire game. But despite all of that, in Hidden Palace Zone, when Knuckles finds out that Eggman's been tricking him the entire time, Sonic puts aside all the history and decides to help Knuckles and work together. And even though we know Sonic is a very hot-headed character, he still accepts Sonic's help and they both work together to stop Dr. Eggman. And just from these 4 sprite-based games, we already get so much of Sonic's character there. He is confident, has no time to waste, and helps others despite being at odds with them. Sonic is shown as this heroic and almost flawless character. Now, the reason I say almost flawless is because at the start of Sonic 3, we see some of Sonic's overconfident and cocky nature when he turns into Super Sonic for absolutely no reason other than to probably show off, which obviously results in Knuckles taking the emeralds from him. So despite Sonic being this very heroic character, he still has some very small flaws in him, which makes sense because after all, he is supposed to be a teenager. But now moving on to the adventure era, with Sonic Adventure 1, 2 and Sonic Heroes. Now that time and technology has advanced, Sonic games now have the opportunity to have some voice acted cutscenes, with some more complex animations, which leaves plenty of room to express and showcase more of Sonic's character. And in the adventure era, that is most definitely what they tried to do. Starting off in Sonic Adventure 1, despite Sonic having an updated design, he is still basically the same character as the classic Sonic games. He is still confident, heroic, has an attitude, wants to help those people who are at odds with him, and still has some very slight flaws. But now that we can see Sonic having conversations with different characters, it allows us to properly see who Sonic is and how he acts. And Sonic's character is further expressed in Sonic Adventure 2 and Sonic Heroes, where in Sonic Adventure 2, we get to see Sonic and Shadow interact, and then in Sonic Heroes, him and Metal Sonic. So up until this point, still, Sonic is confident, he's a teenager so he has an attitude and still has some flaws that come with being a teenager, he's a hero, and he also isn't stupid. Sonic has a brain and knows how things work. as we see many times throughout the adventure era, like the time Sonic takes controlled out before exploding in the capsule. But again, Sonic can be seen to be a bit overconfident sometimes, which can lead him into some very tight situations. But now moving on to the dark era of Sonic, again, Sonic's character traits are pretty much exactly the same as before, only now, it seems that Sonic has started to grow as a character a bit, but not in the sense that he's completely changed as a character, but more so in the fact that he has matured a bit. All of his traits from the past eras of Sonic are all kept intact, but he seems to be a bit more mature now. Maybe the reason for that is because of Jason Griffith, who knows. But in my opinion, the dark era of Sonic is the peak of Sonic's character. Sonic's cool factor is at an all-time high here, and he is shown to be pretty much an almost flawless character in games like Sonic and the Black Knight, where he saves what he believes to be a child's parents from a dragon, stops Knuckles from committing suicide, as in actually fighting for the world to end. This is the era that defines Sonic for me. The voice, the personality, everything was perfect here in my opinion. And it is just such a shame that the next era of Sonic, which is known as the Meta era, ruined nearly everything. So now in the Meta era, Sonic is still seen as a hero. Let's not get it twisted here. To me, Sonic in the Meta era still feels like Sonic, but a lot of his old character traits are actually overly exaggerated here. For example, his cocky and one-liner attitude. In Sonic Colors specifically, Sonic cracks jokes a little too often. Now just looking back on it though, I don't think it was as bad as people were making it out to be, but it was still too much. Still way too much. But despite all that, Sonic to me personally still feels like Sonic, but again, there's something a bit off about him. He is still a confident character that strives for justice, he's heroic, he's seen as a flawless character, except for one game which we'll get to in a minute. But one defining trait that I feel that Sonic did definitely lose in the 2010s era is his cool factor. You can have everything about an iteration of Sonic completely correct, but if there's one defining character trait that isn't there, it's going to completely flop the character, and in the Meta era specifically, the cool factor was gone. But then in one game, that being Sonic Lost World, another change was made to Sonic's character, that being his flawless nature. Sonic in Sonic Lost World reminds me a lot of Sonic Prime. He's very quick to act without thinking at all, cracks a lot of jokes, and just really doesn't feel like Sonic. And I think that is because of the fact that Sonic isn't a flawless character anymore, and also the fact that he's not cool anymore, but we already knew that. Sonic works best when he is an almost flawless character. Sonic never needed to change or grow as a character because that is just what made him Sonic. When you start to make Sonic act like the way he did in Sonic Lost World, where he started being stupid and thinking before he acts, that is exactly the point where you start to lose who Sonic is as a character. Now thankfully in Sonic Forces that was all rectified, so Sonic is back to being the way he was supposed to be. But Sonic Lost World was definitely the outlier here because they tried to give Sonic a flaw and it just didn't work. Now obviously with Sonic Frontiers we're back to the way we should have been with Sonic as a character from back in 2010. Because now we have Ian Flynn on the writing team and Pontac and Graf are now no more. And to the surprise of absolutely nobody, Sonic in Frontiers is once again a confident, almost flawless character that is seen as a light of hope. And guess what? Sonic in Sonic Frontiers feels like Sonic for that very reason. But if I have one small bit of critique for Sonic in Frontiers is that I still don't think that it's reached the level of coolness that Sonic and the Black Knight and those games had, but maybe that's because of his voice, but again, that's a topic for another day, so we won't ponder on that right now. But after that little recap, we now have a set of defining traits for what makes Sonic, Sonic. Sonic is confident, cocky, has an attitude, almost flawless, seen as a light of hope. He is not a complete and utter idiot, but due to his overconfidence, it can lead him into some sticky situations at times. Alright then, now we understand who Sonic is as a character, so now the question is, why is this even a point of discussion in the first place? Well, that is due to two new pieces of Sonic media that have appeared recently. Those being the Sonic movies and Sonic Prime. In both these pieces of media, Sonic acts a little differently than the way he does in the games, which is what led to this whole discussion in the first place. Now for the Sonic movies, in my opinion at least anyways, I don't think they're really that much of a problem really, because the Sonic movies are basically a vacuum compared to the rest of the Sonic series, due to the simple fact that the Sonic movies are not canon, which is why Sonic Prime presents a big problem. Despite a lot of things in Sonic Prime not lining up with the games at all, the show writers are insisting that Sonic Prime is indeed canon to the games, and which is why Sonic having a completely different character is a big problem. In my humble opinion, Sonic and Sonic Prime does not feel like Sonic the Hedgehog at all. It's not even like the Meta era where some parts of Sonic's character were exaggerated, but he still feels like Sonic a bit. No, it's not like that at all. Sonic just acts like a completely different character entirely in Sonic Prime. And again, due to the show being canon, it presents a big problem. Sonic and Sonic Prime is a very, how shall I put this, childish, inexperienced, stupid, and very, very arrogant, none of which have ever been a character trait of Sonic in the games at all. We've already said that Sonic in the games can still be a bit overconfident sometimes, which can lead him into some sticky situations, but he was never a stupid character. Sonic has many brain cells that he actually puts to use a lot of the times, and in Sonic Prime, it's very clear that that is not the case. If Sonic did have his friends in Sonic Prime, he would be literally useless, which is honestly kind of ridiculous because in the games, despite Sonic having and valuing his friends, he could still stand on his own 2 feet by himself. Only in the most dire of situations did he ever need help from anybody else. But in Sonic Prime, if Sonic did have his friends, he would simply be useless. The way Sonic acts in Sonic Prime honestly feels like it should be canon to the movies instead of the games, because Sonic and Sonic Prime and in the movies are very similar, which can't be said for Sonic and Prime in the games. And there is one thing in Sonic Prime that leads to this downfall, and that is the fact that Sonic in Sonic Prime is a very flawed character, no longer almost flawless like he is in the games. The whole reason Sonic Prime happens in the first place is because of Sonic's stupidity and not listening to his friends. And we've already established that in Sonic Lost World, having Sonic as a flawed character didn't really work all too well, because it ended up making Sonic feel like he wasn't Sonic at all. And Sonic Prime has this problem, but it turns it up to 11, which is made even worse by the fact that Sonic's other character traits are also not present. At the very least in Sonic Lost World and the Meta era, Sonic still had some of his character defining traits in there, but in Sonic Prime, again, a lot of them are just gone. So if it wasn't obvious already, Sonic and Sonic Prime is not a very good interpretation of the character. Now I'm not saying that you can't like Sonic and Sonic Prime, because if you do, then by all means go ahead. But there's a time and place for opinions, and the traits of what makes Sonic Sonic the Hedgehog is something that is not up for debate. There are set rules in place for what makes Sonic Sonic the Hedgehog, and unfortunately, Sonic and Sonic Prime does not meet these requirements. So while Sonic and Sonic Prime certainly looks like Sonic, for me personally, and for a lot of other people too, he is definitely not Sonic the Hedgehog. And all this goes back to the question of, should Sonic the Hedgehog be a static character? And the simple answer is, of course, yes. Without Sonic being a static character, he just does not feel like Sonic the Hedgehog at all. Sonic isn't a character that grows himself. He is a character that causes other people to grow. We literally see this in Sonic Frontiers, especially with Tails. Because of Sonic and Sonic alone, Tails in Sonic Frontiers reassures himself that he is not useless and can indeed stand on his own 2 feet, which could not have been the case if Sonic was not a flawless character. It is okay for the main character to be static. There is not a single problem with that. Now whether you like or dislike that fact is up for debate, but it is by no means a bad thing. And especially when it comes to Sonic the Bloody Hedgehog, yeah, it is completely fine. Anyways, that about does it for today's video. So yes, should Sonic the Hedgehog be a static character? Of course he should be. Without him being that, Sonic really does not feel like Sonic at all to me. Now I know some people may disagree heavily with this video, and you know what, that's okay. But I'm sorry to say this, but in terms of something like Sonic's character, there's no opinions, there's only fact here. I'm sorry, that's how it is. Like sure, you can definitely interpret something as something else, but there is such thing as a misinterpretation, which is what a lot of people have been doing recently with Sonic. But what do you guys think of this topic? Do you think that Sonic should be a static character? Or what is your favourite iteration of Sonic the Hedgehog? Let me know down below. I'd love to see what you guys have to say. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, especially that last one. Don't forget to become unleashed. Pressing that join button down below. Remember, it's not necessary. And I will see you all next time. Peace!